Good evening. I'm David Assad, the Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Fall River. It's 6 p.m. on Thursday, March 21st, 2019. We are meeting at One Government Center in the committee hearing room. This is a meeting of a local public body and as such is subject to the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, commonly known as the Open Meeting Law. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, subsection F, I hereby notify all persons in attendance that this meeting is being recorded with both video and audio devices. Our recording secretary this evening is Brittany Farrier, the lady to my left. She's recording an audio version, and Fall River Government TV, Alex Mello, is recording both a video and audio version. If anyone desires to make an audio, video, or combination recording thereof, please notify me now, and I shall make a public announcement of your intention. Hearing none, we'll move on. Present this evening are permanent members from my left to right, John Frank, James Calkins. And alternate members, Dan Dupere and David Saber. The gentleman to my immediate right is William Roth, Director of Planning of the City of Fall River. Brittany, have all petitions to be considered been properly advertised and all interested parties notified in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Zoning Board of Appeals in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48 as amended?
Yes.
I declare the March 21st, 2019 regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Fall River open for such business as shall regularly come before it. I remind all persons presenting before the board, including the petitioners, abutters, anyone in support or anyone opposed to the petition, that your presentation should be limited to 3 minutes. Questions and responses must be directed through the chairman. The board's rules and regulations direct the board to specifically look for information which supports the petitioner's claim. As such, the petitioner should identify and factually support the basis for the petition. I advise the petitioners and all interested persons that this board is the Zoning Board of Appeals. This board's authority exists pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, and is limited in scope and deals with the use of land as regulated by Chapter 86 of the ordinances of the City of Fall River. Additional permits, licenses, reviews, and/or approvals may be required for the specific development and/or use which is the subject of the petition before the Zoning Board this evening. The clerks in the building, planning, engineering, and licensing departments are competent in the discharge of their duties as clerks. They are, however, not lawyers and are not competent to give legal advice. The action taken by this board has a real and lasting effect upon the title to your real estate. I urge all petitioners to seek competent legal counsel before filing your petitions and after a decision of the board has been made. For example, there is a city ordinance 2015-11, section 10-1 requiring site plan reviews. A copy of the ordinance is available at the city clerk's office or from the planning department. I remind everyone that the building inspector is the zoning enforcement authority, and you are here this evening because the building inspector has determined that your proposed action is contrary to the City of Fall River's zoning ordinance. The newly adopted city charter, section 9-18, mandates that all multiple member bodies develop and adopt rules or policy for public comment. We have adopted such a policy, which in short provides for citizen input on zoning board specific matters at the end of this meeting. A sign-in sheet is on the table in the back of the room. That doesn't mean that you can't speak about any petition. I will give everybody the opportunity to speak on the specific petition before the board. Administratively this evening, we'll take agenda items 5 and 8 out of order. The petitioners in both matters have asked to withdraw their petitions. Thereafter, we will start with agenda item number 1. Is there any questions before we start? Okay, agenda item number 5, Lorino and Maria Kudo, care of Matthew Burke Jr., 1235 Newhall Street, Lot D10, 132. This is a variance request to divide the property into 2 lots and construct a single-family dwelling on each, waiving frontage and area requirements in the R8 district, lot size 14,500. The board received a letter from attorney Matthew Burke, and it's dated March 19, 2019. It's addressed to Attorney Assad. Please be advised that this office represents Lorino and Maria Kudo, who are requesting to divide the property into 2 lots, waiving frontage and area requirements. I did receive 3 letters of opposition to this request sometime last week. Today, on March 19th, I received another letter opposing this request. Based on the above, I am formally requesting that the zoning board allow me to withdraw this petition without prejudice. I would like further time to review these letters with my client and SciTech to further explore their options, if any. I am hand-delivering this letter today to give as much advance notice as possible in hopes of preventing any inconvenience to the board or the neighbors. Please feel free to contact my office at any time if there is anything else that the board requires. Sincerely, Matthew F. Burke, Jr., Esquire. Good evening, Attorney Burke. Identify yourself for the record, please.
Matthew Burke, for the kudos, I have an office in Fall River in New Bedford. Thank you very much for taking me out of order, Mr. Chairman.
So that's your request to withdraw?
I have a very
without
simple
prejudice.
request,
Okay.
just to withdraw it without prejudice. I did receive that letter approximately by email by Ms. Faria, probably around 1:30. I hand-delivered the letter approximately 2:30 that afternoon, just to give as much advance notice as possible. I'm just asking that it be withdrawn at this point.
Is there anyone that came out this evening for agenda item number 5? Okay. So agenda item number 5, Attorney Burke has made the request based on the letters of opposition to withdraw that petition. And so he's asking the board to allow him to withdraw. We're not going to go forward. So that's what's happening. Okay. So I get a motion. Is there any? So you're here opposed to it? You're in favor? You're opposed to it also? Okay. All right. So that's what the motion is. I'm not taking any evidence on it because I don't. If we start taking evidence, then the hearing is open. He wants to withdraw it without prejudice. So can I get a motion to
Move leave to withdraw without prejudice.
move to withdraw without prejudice? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, John Frank. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Agenda item number 5 is withdrawn without prejudice. That's off the agenda.
Once again, thank you for taking me out of order.
Okay. We'll take agenda item number 8, Lisa Normandin, 268 Highland Avenue, lot M2420. The request is for a 6-month extension. Request for variance originally granted with conditions on March 15, 2018 for a change in use in an S district for a sandwich shop bakery while retaining residents on the 2nd floor. Now that particular item, let's see. Please, I am withdrawing my application for an extension on the variance at 268 Highland Avenue. We have already pulled the building permit and started construction. Thank you, Lisa Normandin. So it was determined that she didn't need to come back for an extension because she already started. So there's nothing for us to really act on or grant her an extension. So can I get a motion to withdraw this from the... Motion to withdraw, second, Jim Corkins. Any discussion? All those in favor? Agenda item number 8 is done. We'll start with agenda item number 1. FM Investments LLC, 100 Grinnell Street, lot F2180. This is a variance request to convert and expand the existing 2-family dwelling into a 3-family dwelling while providing additional off-street parking in the R4 district, lot size 6,758 plus or minus square feet. Good evening, gentlemen. Tell us who you are, please. Tell us what you want to do.
Marcelo Viana, I work for FM. I'm the owner.
Erasmo da Costa, one of the co-owner of FM Construction and FM Investment.
Okay. So tell us what you want to do.
Well, we bought this property a year ago. It's a 2-family. It's totally in a bad condition. We wanna redo the whole thing, and one of the neighbors actually suggested us to could bring it to make a 3-family. So we changed from 2-family to 3-family. We're gonna add addition on the back, so give more space. We have the space for. We're gonna provide parking space as required, and we just wanna make it look good again. We have some letters from the neighbors approving the construction. I think we gave to...
I think I gave it to Brittany.
Yeah.
I showed it to Brittany.
You know No, I'm sure you,
Did you bring anything with you? to submit?
Not today. I left with you the other
When
day.
he applied, he left. He said
Yeah.
he left everything with you in your
You say you're not supposed to leave that, send any letters to the neighbors, but
We have
did,
some
yeah,
discussed with the neighbor, they approved the construction. We didn't have anybody opposed yet. I don't think anybody's
all right,
here.
so let's just figure out where we're going.
Okay.
So you know that where this is located.
Yes.
This is an R4 district, it's a two-family district. So you have a two-family house already that's there. The lot size that you have is 6,758 square feet. To have a two-family dwelling according to the zoning law, you need 8,000 square feet. You need 75 feet of frontage, you've got 55 feet of frontage. So you're asking for your request is for a variance to say, listen, I need to change because of some hardship, either the shape of the land, the topography of the land, the soil condition, and a change isn't going to be detrimental to the neighborhood or derogate from the zoning law. So can you talk to me about something? The shape of the lot, the shape of the building,
Nothing's changed. Just we're gonna add in the back exactly the shape of the building. Actually, we're gonna push back 2 feet
10
in the
feet,
back,
yeah.
2 feet, so we can make
Yes.
a regular zone in the back.
yeah, I see it.
So we're trying to make exactly what the request today. Even the buildings already on the should be on the same shape, same line.
Okay, all right. Members of the board, any questions?
So you're adding an additional floor, is what it is?
No, we're gonna add additional back. We're gonna raise the roof a little bit just to make sure we got space.
It's,
on
yeah,
top.
yeah, it was a two-family house, but I already have the third floor.
It's already had the
So
third floor.
we all just lift a little bit the roof, change the pitch to make like a three-family, but it was a
The
two-family.
back addition is gonna be the stairway?
Yes.
Yes.
You said you have letters?
From the neighbors, yeah.
But we don't have, they're not part of the file, that's what I've been looking for.
Yeah, we put everything together.
Well, let's
We
say
have,
maybe somebody's here in favor and somebody's opposed.
we have a letter from the right side neighbor, and from somebody around, I can't remember the
Back and
address.
front.
And also in the street, it has 3 families units there
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, the house across the street is direct from our house. It's a
It's three-family.
three-family. The two house on the right side is a three-family house, and the third house on the left is a three-family.
Well, on your, you've got single family, single family, single family, single family, two
Yes.
family, single family, two family, two family.
The one direct across from us is a
The
three-family.
one on the other side of Grinnell Street's a three-family.
Yes,
and
that's
everything else is-
that's our street. Yeah.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Is the parking additional here, or is that as exists?
I guess this right now we have 6 parks there.
There's 6
The-
boxes.
Yes.
No, we're gonna create 6 parking.
Yeah, it's enough space to
We have the long driveway, we're gonna create more parking side.
Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? You've got a conforming lot, you've got, it's in an R4 two-family district, they're looking to expand, and they want to do it by a variance. So if the board thinks that they've heard sufficient evidence by way of shape, topography, soil condition, hardship, then maybe you might get it. If you haven't heard any of that, then maybe it should be denied. Motion to grant, motion to deny.
I'll make a motion to grant.
Motion to grant by Dan Dupere, any second?
I'll second.
Dave Saber, second. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Yeah, no, okay.
If you do decide to grant it, I would request that the approval require site plan review for the addition and the parking area, because we need to look at dealing with on-site drainage. So I would request that
The motion be modified.
the
to
motion be
include-
modified,
To approve site plan review.
if it were to be approved, to require site plan review for the addition and for the additional parking area, to look at the drainage.
Okay, so David, you second that modified motion, okay? So, David, Dan, yes. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, Hawkins, no. Assad, no. Doesn't pass. Vote is 3-2. Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good night.
Well, I think I better leave this to you. Agenda item number 2. Gagyaga LLC, 154-160 Brightman Street, Lot S1639. A variance request to divide the property into 3 parcels, leaving 1 existing structure on each lot in the BL district, lot size 7,916 plus or minus square feet.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Dan Aguirre. I am a senior project manager with SciTech Engineering with addresses here in the city, as well as Dartmouth and Marshfield. The petition before you is with regards to 154-160 Brightman Street, as the chairman stated. Currently on the parcel, we have 3 structures. We have on Brightman Street an existing 2-family dwelling with a commercial unit on the first floor. Adjacent to that, to the west, is an existing 2-family dwelling with a commercial unit on the first floor. And then in the rear, a small commercial warehouse building that has a paved parking area surrounding it. This again is located on the north side of Brightman Street, on the west side of Fulton Street, surrounded by a number of multifamily dwellings, and directly across the street there's that little convenience store right on the corner of McDonald Street and Brightman Street. In the petition, you should have copies of the field cards for the structures, showing that they were built around 1900. Normally, if we were dealing with just multifamily dwellings, we would be proceeding under a different type of petition, would be a special permit, but because there is a commercial component to this, we're not eligible for 86-423. We are, however, eligible to file an approval not required plan using a SITCO provision. However, and we've discussed this at a number of meetings, Fall River likes us to go through the exercise of getting the variance first before we just go to that. And going through the variance route first gives you a little bit of a cleaner title and the ability to do some other things with the parcel if the time ever arose that you wanted to do that. So on this petition, we do have an area again that's entirely paved between all of these structures. So we have provided 3 off-street parking spaces for number 160, 3 off-street parking spaces for 154, 3 off-street parking spaces, and ample turning area for the commercial building behind us. Again, this parcel is entirely impervious currently, already paved. These are spaces that people are already using. In fact, the uses that are happening on the property will not change. They'll just have the ability to be on separate parcels in the event that the owner wanted to sell either 1, 2, or 3 of them. So with regards to hardship, again, we have this unique parcel that we have 3 structures built prior to subdivision control law. We can provide off-street parking. And again, due to the SITCO provision of having multiple structures on a singular parcel of land, we are afforded that right to be able to subdivide it in the best way possible. So you'll see along the middle, we've split it directly with 3.5 feet offset from the building to that new property line. And in a situation like this, we will normally have cross easements that either will or will not show up on the Form A plan, depending upon what the planner would like to see. And we also normally would have a condition that no obstructions or fences get built along these lot lines prohibiting access to parking spaces or fire or pedestrian access through that center aisle. So everything will appear as though the same way that it does now. It could just technically be owned by 3 separate entities. That's all.
Dan, you got to tell me about, you're calling it an existing warehouse commercial building, and I'm looking to see if you had the other part of the
They don't.
assessors.
Yeah,
No,
they don't
because
list that,
the assessor's
the
card
separate
had
card.
Sousa Bus on it, that it was being used for a repair shop.
See, no, I didn't see that, because I tried to find a record of that.
No, in the comment section.
Yeah, when you click on
It says-
comments.
Click on, and that's what, and the photograph, I believe, has 2 Sousa buses in there. So
Okay.
my question is,
Yep.
is it being used as an auto repair or motor vehicle repair shop and not a whip? That's the curveball that I have.
No,
Where-
from what I understand, it is not being used as an auto repair for buses. whatever the current allowed use is what it would remain
Well,
being.
what I'm saying is automobile in this BL district isn't allowed. So
Well,
that, my question, and I
I would then say,
existing use is gonna continue.
whatever the existing use is, if that is an allowed use, would be allowed to continue.
Yeah, I got that, but it's your plan that
No,
says
I
existing
understand.
warehouse, commercial building.
Right.
I don't see any warehousing taking place there, nor is that a permitted use under the BL district.
Okay?
So my thought was, was the variance for that use, or is it strictly to get three?
No, the variance is not for that use. It's to subdivide the parcel as it exists.
So it's just.
And three separate structures.
It's just separate, three
So
separate.
if they're
that's it.
repairing vehicles there and it's not in accordance with the bylaw, or they didn't get the appropriate
What I'm
permits,
saying is,
that's a
this
separate-
board isn't granting a use
No,
variance.
absolutely
That's not
not.
what you're looking
No,
for.
absolutely
It's
not.
strictly three separate lots, analogous to the Sitco, say, here we go, I got the
Correct.
structures, I want
Yeah.
separate lots.
whatever the actual uses are, that you have no,
Yeah, that's not anything that's before the
Nothing
board.
that's before you now.
Okay. Director of Planning, I'd like to hear your comments on this
Yeah.
particular.
Well, I agree 2/3 with the Sitco argument, but not 3/3 with it. Because the existing structures, the two-family dwellings, what you're calling an existing warehouse commercial building looks like a garage or shed that would have been a customary, accessory structure.
have you been there?
So, I have driven by, and what concerns me is if you look at the Google Map view also, where you're proposing on putting parking for the residential structure are two buses. If you look at, and so literally between what you're calling your warehouse, what I would say is the former shed that's turned into a little bus repair thing, between that and the building, there were, on the Google Map view, are two buses,
They took
so
up the whole space.
they
Now-
take up the entire space.
Right, with all due respect, Google map views are fairly old. When I surveyed this
Yeah.
property,
And
there
then
wasn't a vehicle
I
on
relied
it.
I relied on the notes of the field card
Right.
that said Sousa bus,
Yeah.
and then I went to the Google view. I'm just letting you
Yeah, hold on.
know
Hold on
that
one second.
that's something that I
What
saw.
I
and
would
looked at.
suggest is that the current owner purchased the property in 15. And I'm assuming that the Sousa bus use of the structure is no more. If you would like to get clarification on that, we could, but this is clearly, actually, I believe it's a concrete block building, so this isn't
it is.
with a high
is,
door,
with
so
an
this isn't a
overhead
shed by,
It's not a big, we're looking at the wrong building. The building wasn't a big thing, it was,
no, it's one
Concrete
story,
building, one
one
story,
story, maybe a
garage door.
12-foot door, a
Yeah.
little passage door on the side
That's
of it.
right, yeah.
But it's not a residential
Could've been-
garage
could've
or a
been
shed.
garage.
no,
Right.
I'm not saying that.
So-
but I'm
Even,
saying-
even if it is a garage, the Sitco provision is afforded on
No,
the
I'm not-
structure.
You're not gonna hear me argue that, no, it doesn't, but I'm just
So-
asking what the use is.
Yeah.
And if you're not asking for the use, I'm asking the question because the photograph of the two Sousa, and again, I agree with you that Google map may be different, but when I went to the assessor's card, the field card in the comments, it talked about Sousa bus.
It reiterated what we saw.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. So I just wanted to point that out for the record, because if it in fact is, then your proposed parking won't work because the buses were there. So to the board, if you do decide to approve it, I would request that the parking spaces be required to be striped. And then Dan's already covered it. We pretty much, well, in the year plus I've been here, we probably do about one of these every other meeting. Separate utilities, easement for crossover access and parking is pretty standard.
No obstruction.
And no obstructions within the, between the property lines.
As an additional condition that we usually do in some of these, we can also put signage in front of each space, designating each space for what unit it belongs to. Because what's going to happen is, right now, when you have a singular owner to this whole thing, I can agree, maybe things aren't going to be where they are. But as soon as one parcel gets conveyed, they're going to want to be able to utilize those 3 spaces
That's why
for
I want
their
the-
tenants.
Then I would amend my request that the spaces be striped and signed
Signed, that's
per units. But I'm finding that striping in this type of case where it's all asphalt is really key.
Sure.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, let's see. Is there any board members, any questions on this particular project? Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Motion to grant, any discussion, motion to deny. It's being brought in as a variance. You've got this, they couldn't qualify as a special permit, so they had to do it as a variance to split it up.
Move approval based upon the conditions of striped parking and designated ownership of each of the parking spaces.
Okay.
No barriers between the
Oh,
buildings,
obstructions, yeah.
separate utilities.
Cross easements.
Cross easements
Yeah,
Access and parking.
to access
cross
of parking.
easements provided for access to parking.
Site, you don't need site plan review on this.
No.
All right, so that's Jim's motion. Do I have a second? Second, David Saber. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? 2, 3, 4. So that one's granted with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3. Paulo Correa, 83 and 85 Brayton Avenue, Lot F, 1687. This is a special permit request to convert the existing 2-family dwelling into a 3-family dwelling in the R4 district, lot size 5,349 plus or minus square feet.
Good evening again. For the record, Dan Aguiar from SciTech Engineering, here this evening on behalf of the property owner, Paulo Correa, regarding the real estate at 83 and 85 Brayton Avenue. Although what may seem similar to your first petition that you heard this evening, this is actually quite different. We have a property that's located on Brayton Avenue with 45 feet of frontage, 5,349 square feet in area. We have an existing 2-family dwelling, number 83, that is located to the front portion of the property, and we also have an existing 3-family dwelling located to the rear of the property, that's number 85. The importance of the fact that we have these 2 separate structures on this parcel is that we have a non-conforming parcel, and we have a non-conforming use situation, which technically affords us the ability to proceed as a special permit when we're asking to expand an existing non-conforming use in a zoning district. This is an R4 district that is 2-family, as was in your previous hearing. And if the 2-family sat by itself, then we would, as the chairman stated in the initial, we would probably not have the ability to move forward with 86-423. Although the parcel is non-conforming, the use of the parcel would be technically conforming if it was just a 2-family. So what the petition is before you is to allow the expansion of this 2-family dwelling to allow for the use of the 3rd floor as a separate 1-bedroom living unit. As you see in the photo that I gave you, it's a very well-kept property, and it does have access, attic access that's somewhat fitted out. It's got some studded out walls, and the applicant would like the ability to utilize that as a studio / 1-bedroom use. We would offer that the expansion of this property in this expanded use to a 3-family would have no significant detrimental effect to the neighborhood. The addition of 1-bedroom unit and potentially 1 new vehicle to park on Brayton Avenue would be insignificant at best. If you have any specific questions, I'm glad to answer them.
And this is an updated Google view.
That is a street view, correct?
The street view?
Yeah, and I drove by to make sure that it is the same.
But you,
And it
Like
is.
the one I relied on.
but we're in this R4
That's correct.
2-family district. You've
Right.
got 2 structures on it. You've got an existing 2-family, 3-family in the back.
Correct.
don't have adequate lot size, but your argument is that we could have a finding that we can extend, provided that we determine that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental to the existing non-complying structure in the neighborhood, is where you're going with it.
Correct.
We've got a tight neighborhood. We've got 45-foot frontage. I understand what your argument is, but...
Again, we're not asking to expand the structure, we're not adding
No,
on
you're-
to it.
You're adding a different,
We are
another
adding-
unit and
We are adding an
another
additional
person,
unit. That's correct.
higher density in the area that's already single family, 3-family zone. There's lots of 3 families, 2 families on this lot surrounding it.
That's correct.
So let's see.
Very similar to our uses.
Yeah, no, I got it. Members of the board, any questions on this particular item? Do you have any, Mr. Roth, any things that we should be considered before we ask if there's anybody in favor or opposed?
No, you already got a small lot, already 5 units. There's no on-site parking, and does not appear that you could even put any parking on the piece of property.
It would be super tight. There's an elevation difference,
No,
and then
that's
the
why I said
abutter
it
to
doesn't appear that
the
you could
abutter
do
to the
it.
west, it sits higher, so it would require
That's it,
some
you don't-
retaining walls. So it
Dan,
really
I'm agreeing
wouldn't
with
fit.
you that I don't feel you could
I wish we
add parking.
could, because that would help my argument, but,
But it's not helping you today.
I don't know, but we like grass though.
Yeah.
It's impervious. All right, is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition?
if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
since no one wanted to speak, if you're familiar with the area, which I am, I grew up in this area and I frequent it still, there is never a parking issue on Brayton Avenue as it currently exists now. So again, I don't think the increase in one bedroom unit on this 3rd floor would be a detriment to the neighborhood.
Okay, so motion to grant, motion to deny, and we hate to have that finding that if we find, if there is a determination that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental to the existing non-conforming structure of the neighborhood, then we can go forward with the special permit.
I find that it will not be substantially more detrimental to the area.
So Jim Corkin says that he has a finding that it's not. Do we have a second on that finding?
A second.
Dan Dupere seconds. Okay, all those in favor? 2, 3. All right, 4 to 1. So that passes. So now you want to bring a motion to grant?
It's a different question.
No, well now, okay, now do you want to grant the special permit to allow this expansion or this creation of the singular unit? So it'll be a 3-family, the 2-family gets converted to the 3-family. Okay, no,
Consistent with-
no, you can be inconsistent, you don't have to be, I mean, it's where we're going with it. So now do you want to grant it, to grant the special permit for the purposes of adding that singular unit to that existing 2-family dwelling? You can say, no, we don't want to do it, so you want a motion to deny, you can have a motion to deny.
So, we're granting a variance. to
No,
No,
we're granting
special permit.
Oh,
The
special permit.
standard is
Oh,
lower.
Yeah.
all right.
It's
It's
not-
not the same as the first petition.
To allow a
So,
special circumstance.
special permit to grant the single, so the 2-family gets converted to a 3-family. Okay. Motion to grant the special permit, Jim Corkin, so I have a second.
A second.
Dan Dupere, second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. John, no. Assad, no. 3 to 2. Special permit is not granted. Thank you. Good.
Can you just read me back the vote for not significant? Who voted, who was the 4th vote that said it wasn't,
Not significant?
that it wasn't significantly
Me.
detrimental? So you voted no?
I voted
So
no.
John said that it wasn't detrimental?
John who?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Manuel L. and Grace Cardoza, 724 Plymouth Avenue, lot I-1438, variance request to construct a single-family dwelling on a non-conforming parcel in the A2 district, lot size 6,475 plus or minus square feet.
Good evening again. For the record, Dan Aguirre from SciTech Engineering. Here this evening on behalf of Manuel and Grace Cardozo, who are the owners of the real estate at what was 724 Plymouth Avenue. The petition before you is a variance request. We have an A2 district that requires 10,000 square feet of area, 100 feet of frontage, and required setbacks of 30 front, 20 side, and 30 rear. This real estate, map I-14, lot 38, was once the home of a three-family structure that you'll see in the photographs, both street view and I believe aerial. I think you have both there. And then also on the plan, you'll see that we have a footprint of a previously existing three-family dwelling. This structure was destroyed by fire in or around 2015. And the lot has sat vacant, as you can see in the street view photo that you have on top there, in between an existing multifamily commercial building to the south, an existing six-family building to the north, an existing three-family building to the west, and then another one, three-family to the south as well. A number of years ago, we had actually petitioned the board. At that time, the owner had a buyer that wanted to actually put an automotive repair, auto sales facility at this. I don't know if you remember, but we were denied that petition. So since that time, Grace is trying to do something with this parcel, all of which kind of fly in the face of the A2 district and the size of the structure. So she finally came to the realization that building a single-family home would probably be the least detrimental with regards to the size of the structure and impact to the neighborhood. So what we did was we put together an application, a reasonably sized home, exceeding the setback shown on the plan that we have of 20 foot in the front yard, 15 feet in the sides, and 30 foot in the rear. Now it's important to know that this is technically not considered a pre-existing non-conforming parcel because it did have a structure on it at one time. And during a 2-year period of time, they could have come back in by right and built the previous three-family over again. But at that time, they didn't have the ability to do so. So we're actually, the only way to get something done is through the variance procedure, which is why we're here tonight. So we would like to build this single-family home with very reasonable setbacks, more than appropriate parking in this multi-family neighborhood. We do have a parcel that sits vacant. The size of the parcel is the size of the parcel. We can't make it any bigger. And we believe that we've created a modest-sized home that would fit in the area. This does require a variance. There is no other special permit or any other way to get this done because of it being in the A2 district.
Thank you.
That's all.
Oh, okay. Any questions?
After the fire, what do they do with the utilities? Are they still accessible?
I tried to find out if they were stubbed. I'm sure you're looking in response to the city engineer's requirement. I don't know where they stubbed them off, whether or not they're capped onto the property, inside the sidewalk, outside of the sidewalk. I did read the engineer's record. I thought maybe the chairman, yeah, I did. And if you were going to read it into the record. You want me to wait to respond to it?
No, if you,
okay.
let me read the item and then you can,
okay.
we can have an open discussion on it. So, March 6th, the city engineer, J.R. Frey, writes, item number 4, variance to construct a single-family home on a non-conforming lot. Plymouth Street was reconstructed in 2015, will be under road. So Plymouth Street, Plymouth Avenue, was reconstructed in 2015, will be under road moratorium protection through December 2020. To protect the integrity of the city's investment, it is the infrastructure. Engineering recommends denial of the request at this time. Or maybe I don't have the thing that talked about.
No, that's it.
Oh.
What the city engineer is...
I know, but the question about whether they were stubbed,
Yeah,
was it?
No, but that's...
No, that's
he's
directly leads to
it's
this
a-
question.
Yeah, no,
It's a
I got it,
dreaded
I got it.
triangle.
I thought it was
So if the utilities were stubbed,
That's
then
correct.
the
Then there's a
engineers...
problem. But that's not for this board.
That's not for the board.
This board will either say, you can build on it, you've met, and I think the shape of the lot, the topography of it is such that maybe you've met
Right.
the hardship issue, but those other issues in my opening remarks,
Yep.
you have other permits and other avenues to go to, so.
I agree. And in most circumstances, with a road that's going to be that close to the 5-year moratorium, when we appear before the city council, we usually do get the ability to tie into it. They may not need to tie into it until after that date, so who knows? So they may pull a building
I know Grace is
permit.
here, does she know?
Yeah, Grace understands what we're
No,
discussing.
but does she know anything about the
Oh,
utilities?
do you know when the utilities
I
were,
did call the gas company at one time, and, I
but
was
sewer and water,
I don't
more
know.
specifically, you don't know?
That was my
I
part, though.
I did look at the sewer card,
Yeah.
but it doesn't talk about.
It just says what it was, it doesn't say what
Well,
it did when it...
Do you realize the sewer comes from
It's Cumberland Street.
Tecumseh?
No,
Comes across the frontage and then comes in?
no, I did not know that.
Well, it does.
That happened a lot.
Oh, I know. I saw a sewer card and scratched my head.
But whoever, the new construction, you're gonna have to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
beyond the scope of this board. So if
Right.
the board grants it, you need to do what you need to do.
And if it meant waiting until after the December 20th to tie into utilities in the street,
Yeah,
then
that's-
they'll have to wait.
But
for it.
if the current sewer or the previous sewer came from Tecumseh Street, then it wouldn't even,
Right.
Well, it may come,
Street wouldn't have any.
depending on where they capped it, and I think this is what Dan and I would have a discussion and for the previous question is, if they capped it in the sidewalk, that wouldn't be a problem, because they could dig the sidewalk up
Yep.
and replace the sidewalk, that's easy. It's if they capped
If it's
it
in the middle of.
in the middle of the road, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
issue.
No, I don't
Um,
think they did.
And it's wherever they,
I don't know.
it's where
Let
they.
Dan do his magic.
It's where they capped it. But I think that the letter of opposition is more of an
Road.
issue of a FYI, you may have you may
Correct.
be able to get a variance, but you may have a problem.
Right.
That is outside of the scope. If the board does decide, especially with the issues of the utilities and everything, if you do decide to grant the variance, I would request site plan review on this for obviously drainage, access, and in particular, the utilities.
Sure.
What was the date on that again?
That they put the
That they said the moratorium?
2015, it ends 2020,
When?
December.
December of 2020.
Your variance would expire.
Well,
The variance would
No, but
We
they
could pull a
can
building
permit and
permit.
they can
Yeah.
start building.
And
or
stop
having
building, we
other-
could put a foundation in and
We
then
won't
wait
have
till
a
we
normal-
could tie into.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that was my question. So
Okay.
it will be past if you don't pull a building, it'll be past the deadline.
Correct, unless we were asked for an extension or, who knows,
Well,
any number of things.
That's gonna happen. Done. Okay. Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Okay.
Move granting,
Jim Corkins moved to grant with conditions.
site plan review.
Good.
I don't, I think all of the other conditions will be
No,
met
that's,
on that.
yeah, site plan review, drainage, and utilities.
Site plan review will cover all of that.
Okay, so that's your motion. Second?
Well, yeah, and that the off-site parking be provided as indicated on
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it's
Or
on-
on
two
the
off-street,
plan.
is that what you had, two
At
off-street
least, at
parking?
least two.
At least two off-street parking, okay.
Curb cut's already there.
All right, so that's your motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's a good thing they
Second,
didn't
John
close it
Frank. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Cool. Okay, so that petition is granted with those conditions.
Thank you.
The curb cut?
It's a good thing they
It's
didn't
already
close it
there.
up.
It's already there.
It's a good thing they didn't close it up when the Mass Highway came through.
Number 5. Agenda item number 6. Arnold G. Maderas, 296, 288, 284 Broadway Street, and 355 Division Street, Lot G421. This is a special permit request to divide the property into 3 lots, leaving an existing multifamily dwelling on each lot in an A2 district, lot size 10,047 plus or minus square feet.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Dan Aguirre from SciTech Engineering, here this evening on behalf of the property owner Arnold Maderas regarding the 3 multifamily structures that are located at the southeast corner of Division and Broadway. If you've driven by the area, you'll see there 3 tan structures that are all matching. The one on the corner, we have a multifamily dwelling, and then there is a stretch of garages that in the petition you should actually,
Yeah, no,
the field cards if
yeah.
you have them,
Got it.
that show the representation of each of the structures, that they were all built 1910, 1900, and 1900. So again, under 86-423, of the zoning bylaw, we are allowed to separate these multifamily structures, doing the best that we can to create reasonable lot lines and parking scenarios.
Excuse me, gentlemen, can you take that conversation outside, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Good, I'm sorry, Dan.
So, back to 86-423. In the bylaw, it says, you know, to create lot lines that are the most reasonable and that make the most sense. As you'll see, what we've done is we've split the existing driveway coming off of Broadway to give them the most,
Maximum use of the proposed lot.
and we've split the lots between the steps and the building.
Specifically access, parking. Yeah.
Coming up on the side off of Division, that's actually a set of steps that we split so that each person owned 3 feet. Just gives people a little bit of a level of comfort that they own as much as they possibly can. So it's a rather straightforward application. We've shown the ability for 6 off-street parking spaces, which is what's out on the site now. We've designated an area for trash, collection for barrels. That's pretty much where they're putting the barrels now. Utilities, yes, would end up being separated. I believe they already are separated. There were a bunch of new gas patches that I noticed when we actually did the survey. But again, a pretty straightforward application. Again, dissimilar to the one that we had on Brightman Street, because we are dealing with multifamily structures here, not the Sousa Bus building in the back.
So there's no parking then for parcel 1 indicated here?
They have the
There's
garage.
existing garages, they got that series of
Garages.
garages on Division Street.
Yeah.
Five
I
stalls, 4 stalls?
confused you when I said that we had the 6. There are I believe there are at least 4.
No Google Street View?
No, I didn't have it. I didn't think I needed it on this one. Yeah. So I know we have at least 3 off-street parking spaces in that garage, maybe even more with the depth of the structure itself. Buildings are in great shape.
Yeah,
Really nice.
nice one.
Here, Director, anything we should think about?
I just, not that it's more of an FYI for you, Dan. In looking at the going out and looking at the Google Earth image, it looked like the parking at 302 abuts your proposed parking behind the 296, and it looks,
I'm drawing a blank. Okay.
Well,
I got
302,
you.
I'm sorry, to
Yep.
the south. It abuts, there's parking literally mirroring that.
Yep.
And based on the drive-by and looking through and then looking at Google Maps,
Yep.
it looks like they have like wheel stops, and the wheel
Yep.
stops look like they're like at the property line. And it looks like your neighbor may have an encroachment issue.
I believe there's a fence there and a retaining wall.
Yeah.
Because when you look up in between those 2 buildings, you'll see somebody made an asphalt berm to keep water going from where
Right.
it's going, and that berm is actually right on the lot line. And then there was a small retaining wall and then a chain link fence.
Yeah, it looked
So-
like that might have been whatever. That's just one
Yep.
of the issues. My recommendation, this is pretty straightforward, the 3 existing structures. Again, I'm going to be a broken record, just like you, Dan. Stripe.
Yep.
Stripe and
Signage.
sign and assign parking spaces.
Okay.
Easements for crossover access and parking. Separate utilities. I did look at some of the field cards. I believe they are, but that would need to be.
Yep.
Yeah, but separate utilities, do the
and-
affidavit so we know,
Yep.
so we don't have these people,
And the no fences.
Yep.
no obstruction, no fences.
Would it, Dan, would it be onerous if we required for the separate utilities that you just presented an as-built? Or would you,
I can try. If we can find out, I mean, if they're already technically separated, it's kind of difficult to find out where they are
Don't worry
underground.
about it then.
If we do have to install new utilities, then of course we can as-build those.
right.
Yeah, but I know that's entirely newly paved area, so hopefully they don't have to dig it up. So
Yeah.
hopefully they can find records that, you know, they are all separate.
Okay. Well, if they do put new utilities in, utilities.
We can
they're
as-build
gonna
that.
They're gonna want an as-built
Yes,
anyway.
that's
So
fine.
that doesn't need to be a condition, just the affidavit of separate utilities.
So I ask, is anyone in favor of this petition? Is there anyone who are opposed to this petition? Members of,
I'll
go
make a
ahead.
motion to grant
John Frank, motion to grant with those conditions.
with the conditions that I mentioned earlier. Strike
Good.
parking spaces
Special-
as indicated on the plan with signage,
Yeah, you're gonna have that, good.
easements,
Yeah.
separate utilities, and no obstructions, barriers, fences.
Okay. And with that, do you want to we have to have a finding that, in addition to that, your finding is that the division is made in a way to maximize the use of the proposed lots, specifically access, parking, and yard?
Okay, so then we have to bifurcate.
Yeah.
I would make that motion.
Okay. Motion first to make that finding, second by Jim Corkins. All those in favor? So we have the finding that this separation maximizes the use of the proposed lots, specifically access, parking, and yard area. And your motion is to grant the special permit, with the conditions being striping, signage, separate utilities, no obstructions, and cross easements.
Yes.
Yes? Second? Jim Corkins. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? So that petition is granted with those conditions. Okay, agenda item number 7. Michael Camara, 1101 North Main Street, lot 0713. Variance request to operate an auto repair fueling station convenience store, waiving requirements in an A2 district, lot size 13,085.
Good evening again, Dan Aguirre from SciTech Engineering. I want to apologize for the legend in the top right-hand corner of the photograph. As Bill called out to me, you'll see they're all the same. I can't get it off of my Google Earth. It keeps printing Seabra Market on Stafford Road every time I print in a street view. I'm going to use my computer. Sorry about that.
Could be the new home of Seabra Market.
No. So before you, in this petition, is probably the most recognizable fueling station in the city of Fall River. Located at the bottom of President Avenue and North Main Street, you have a street view photograph. At 1101 North Main Street, there is, I'm going to call it an existing repair garage, office structure, canopy, fuel tanks, and fueling stations that have been in existence, I believe I could find dating back to about 1960. Recently, Mr. Camara has found a buyer for the property, and we were in the process of resurrecting some construction activity on the site, getting some tanks replaced, when the building inspector made the determination that the building has sat for longer than a 2-year period of time, losing all grandfathering. Mr. Camara made the argument to me that the use has continued on the site. Actually, if you go by, there's actually a sign on the window with a phone number to call, which was probably more auto repair use than fueling. So the building inspector determined you need to go and seek a variance. I can find no other way by special permit or any other way to get back in here other than filing a variance. This is an A2 district, which is an apartment district.
Well, you could have gone and had the determination that it could come back in. Anyway,
okay.
You can
give me a lesson, I hope.
But you could have had the use, because it was abandoned, reinstated by the planning board, come back to the zoning board, and we can.
Okay.
It's going to work this way too.
All right. So directly across the street, we have the existing Shell gas station, which I think was just sold recently.
Yes.
That is a BL district. Directly across President Avenue, we are a BL district. There are no apartments on our side of the street, which is what the A2 district is intended for. We actually have James Morton Middle School to our north and east, and then North Park directly adjacent to them. So we have this corner parcel of land that is completely built out for repair service, gasoline station, canopy, fueling pumps, and I would offer that the hardship is the specific structures that are located on this property, and that they are unique. If the structures were not located and have been in existence all this time, I would say that a variance would not be grounds for approval. However, since the owner owns this building and has constructed upon it many, many years ago, these buildings, these canopies, these tanks, and this paved parcel of land, that he is afforded the right of a variance due to the specific conditions that are on this parcel. So it's a rather straightforward application. At this time, there are no improvements to be made until we get zoning relief. They will need to replace some tanks. We will be replacing a canopy, all things that will go before site plan review.
Is anything going to happen to the building itself?
The building is going to stay, or actually be made smaller. But as of right now, for this petition, the building is going to stay as it currently does now.
So the conversion of the building into a convenience store will
Small.
happen within...
Small, yeah,
No,
small.
no, no.
Within the space that it's in now,
four walls of there,
yes.
so there's
That's
no
correct.
new construction anticipated?
That's correct. Right. Anything beyond, where I did not have the privy of meeting the new owner only until a few days ago, and this petition's actually been kicking around for probably 3 months. So our initial goal is to, okay, let's get ourselves even with where we're at with what's out here. I have had discussions about the new owner may not want to do repair, which is probably actually a good thing for that neighborhood. But that sale has not gone through. Those discussions have not been finalized. So right now, the petition before
What's
you
before, man?
is
What's
for
before
what's
this
out
board?
there.
Auto repair,
Yep.
fueling station, convenience store.
That's correct.
Those are the uses you want to reestablish over there.
In those existing structures, yeah. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay. Any questions? Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition?
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
The letter of support that came from
Oh, there is in fact, thank you for reminding me, there is a letter of support from the North End Neighborhood Association. It was received March 21st. It's on North End Neighborhood Association letterhead signed by Anton J. Dias. It's addressed to Mr. Assad, the North End Neighborhood Association, at its March 20th, 2019 meeting, voted unanimously in favor of Mr. Michael Camara's ZBA variance request. The property, an existing gas station located at 1101 North Main Street, lot 0713, has been closed for a number of years. It is our hope and desire that your board grant Mr. Camara a variance. So then there's reference to section 86405, non-conforming use of structure. Item 5, for structure discontinued or abandoned for 2 years as being the reason for such a variance requirement. Then he makes reference to the Massachusetts Business Building Code, and based on these facts, the North End Neighborhood Association requests that the Zoning Board of Appeals approve the granting of the variance to this applicant. Very truly yours, Anton J. Dias, North End Neighborhood Association Treasurer.
I was just curious, does that provision that they reference apply as,
The building code or the
yeah, the
zoning?
building code, where they're
Says-
saying that we're, a discontinued use still maintains the status of that?
I am not prepared to tell you what 780 CMR has to, what it says, or what the building code says. If it was the zoning issue, I could tell you yes, but the building code, that's beyond the scope of this board and where I am. But, okay, so we've got that. Is there anything here, Director, that we should know before we start?
The only thing I would request is any future exterior site alterations should require site plan review.
Yep.
That's, okay, that's beyond the,
Yeah, like I said,
we're not.
whatever we may potentially change with either
Yeah, you're
replacing pumps or tanks, I mean, if any, or parking changes, we'll have to go through site plan.
All right, so get a
I
motion
just
to
wanna
grant,
reinforce.
motion to
Yep.
deny, what do you want to do?
Check out.
I asked, didn't I? Anybody in favor, anyone opposed? Did I miss? Is there, I did not ask? Okay,
Yes, you did.
I did, thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay, I just want to make sure, because the gray hairs, you know, you sometimes start forgetting. So, do we have a motion to grant? Motion to grant by David Savers, do we have a second? Second. Second by Dan Dupre, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Okay. Unanimous vote, that's granted, so the variance to operate an auto repair, fueling station, and convenience store is hereby granted.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. We did number 8. I cannot listen to agenda item number 9, so that's going to be handled by the secretary, John Frank. I'll leave, and then I'll come back when it's over. Oh, yeah. What's up?
Yes, Seabra Market. I was hoping nobody was gonna notice that.
I know there's
Good evening. For the record, Dan Aguirre from SciTech Engineering.
Is agenda
Oh, sorry.
number
I already
9,
read it.
Rodman Street LLC, 688 Rodman Street and Lawrence Street, Lot I-21-1. Special permit request to demolish an existing commercial building and allow construction of 11 townhouses consisting of 6 units in one building, 5 units in the second building, while providing 2 off-street parking spaces, lot size 21,252 square feet.
Good evening. Again, Dan Aguirre for SciTech Engineering. Here this evening on behalf of Rodman Street LLC regarding the real estate at 688 Rodman Street. You all know it as Global Glass that sits at the northwest corner of Lawrence and Rodman Street. There is a series of photographs that I gave you in this little packet. The first one being an aerial photograph illustrating the block that we sit on that has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 or 16 single-family homes built over the last 5 or 6 years. As you see on the plan that I submitted, we illustrate those. Directly across the street are a number of multifamily homes as well. This isn't a commercial mill district. So it was originally an industrial district prior to the rezoning in 13, whatever it was. Directly across the street, we have a BL district. What's important to note is that in the commercial mill district, there are a number of uses that are allowed in this district, and I'll just read a few of them quickly. Most notably, the first one in a commercial mill district, a single-family home is not allowed. So you actually need a variance to build a single-family home. Item number 2, a 2-family dwelling, a 3-family dwelling, a multifamily dwelling of 20 units or more. These are all allowed by special permit. So we are proceeding with this application as a special permit, not as a variance. We have a parcel of land, 21,000 square feet, with approximately 100 feet of frontage on each of the corner lots in a district that requires 10,000 square feet and only 100 feet of frontage. So we far exceed the area and frontage requirements for the size parcel that we have. Building setbacks for the district, and you see also on our plan, are 10 feet, which our proposed structures are meeting those as well. So there are no variances that we need for construction. This is solely a special permit allowing the construction of these 2 townhouse-style buildings. We had looked at a number of different multifamily structures to build, some of them a little bit more on the high-rise aspect, more of an apartment idea, but these will be first and second floor, singular occupancy, patio area to the rear of each of the structures. So the applicant actually wants to build something that's going to fit in. It's not a 3-tenement home, it's not a single-family home, somewhere in between. We have provided a total of 25 parking spaces, which I believe far exceeds the requirements of 2 spaces per unit. All the spaces would be 9 by 18. We have handicap spaces provided, concrete sidewalks, some landscaping along Rodman Street. And again, this parcel would go before site plan review, as it should, because it's a fairly intense construction project, as a single-family home would go through it as well. So I think what we're proposing is far better than some of the other uses that are allowed in that commercial mill district. Again, as I stated, regarding the residential uses are allowed by special permit. We are allowed to build any retail operations, stores, service restaurants, service businesses, bar, saloon by special permit, a hotel or a motel, banks, theater, auditorium, parking lots, radio, television studios, business or professional offices. So there are a number of more intense uses that were allowed by right. However, by special permit, I think we can say that this proposal, with access only off of Rodman Street, which is an important factor in this project, and I'll explain why in a minute, will provide adequate off-street parking and a market rate housing that's a little bit different. We've actually, I think Bill will tell you, we've actually permitted a few of these style developments now, and they're just starting to get built. Again, so they're not super apartment buildings. They're not single-family homes, but there's a kind of a housing market that's pretty hot right now in this area, and I think it's going to do very well. I do know that we have at least one letter of opposition, again, from the city engineer, and his concerns were driven mainly by, again, if you look at the aerial photograph, to the right-hand side of the photo, you see the DPW construction yard / old incinerator, that I'm sure you are all aware that in the near future, hopefully in the near future, they're hoping to do something with that parcel and get it back up and running again in some type of waste disposal mechanism. So he had a concern regarding the amount of traffic that's going to occur at that facility and just the general industrial use of the property. I think the residential use of this area, that cat's kind of out of the bag already with the city allowing these single-family homes to be built over the past few years. I mean, this is, as you drive down that street, with the exception of ABC Disposal, ABC Supply, Sullivan Tire at the corner, once you get past that, this is a residentially developed area. So we want to fit in the best that we can, and we think the construction of these types of units would fit in well and would be very advantageous to the neighborhood.
First thing I just want to make clear is you have a 4-member board.
That's correct. We need all 4 members.
You know, 4 members.
That's correct.
Just address that before.
Yep.
Secondly, there are, like you mentioned, there was a letter of opposition brought forward from the engineering division of the city of Fall River, item number 9, which states, special permit request, City of Fall River owns and maintains an operation of the facility at 10 Lewiston Street, aka the Fall River Incinerator, which is accessed by Lawrence Street. Activity at the facility now formally includes heavy truck traffic, solid waste recycling, handling, transport, vehicle maintenance, and salt storage. The nature of the industrial activities at the facility requires 24-hour operation availability and may generate nuisances, conditions, noise, which are incompatible with residential use in the direct proximity of the facility. Furthermore, the citizens of Fall River have directly expressed their intention to return the facility to full operation of solid waste handling facility throughout the ballot referendum. The city is pursuing the avenues to affect this policy. Based on the foregoing, engineering is strongly opposed to the permit allowing residential use of the direct proximity facility. Also, there are a couple, one in opposition and one in favor. Letter received March 3rd. Katrina Brilliant and Avilo Brilliant, to whom it may concern. This letter is in regards to opposition of item number 9 listed on the petition of the city. One located on Rodman Street / Lawrence Street, the old Global Glass Building. As much as we are aware, we are in favor of the building being demolished and having the space used for something useful, we are opposed to it being used for townhouses. My husband and myself are homeowners located right behind the building, which according to our deed for home address 25 Lewiston Street, records of deeds book 135, page 35, actually sits a foot or so into our property line, which we have lived in Fall River basically our whole lives and have been homeowners for almost 2 years now. We have been accustomed to living in a neighborhood of single-family homes where it's quiet and everyone lives their own lives day to day. Our concerns, I'm sure, my surrounding neighbors as well, for townhouses, possibly housing units, have grown since the news petition. Our hopes for that building to come down would be for the continuation of single-family homes, for those looking to have their own space and property and not have to worry about the apartment building filled with those who don't respect their neighbors. No one is perfect, and we have no place to judge. But as a homeowner with a growing family on the way, we don't like trouble. We like to come home to quietness, say hi to our neighbors, and go about our lives, and get to work each day. In conclusion, this letter, as homeowners surrounding the Global Glass Building, we oppose the petition to build townhouses. then there was also an email sent on 3/5 stating that Carlos Sardina, I have a homeowner at 693 Rodman Street, directly across from 688 Rodman Street, and I approve of the action to demolish the building, that it is an eyesore in the area and has been vacant for 10+ years.
If I could just add just a couple of things, if you don't mind. So we have two letters of differing opposition. One, that this is a super industrial area and there should be no residential structures, and one that there should only be single-family homes built here, which isn't even allowed in the district anyway, except through variance. When I said before about our access and our driveway, it was intentional to put our access only off of Rodman Street so that there would be no interference on Lawrence. Now, Lawrence wraps around. I mean, this block is entirely traversable, and yes, there will be some industrial traffic that will occur on there. No more or less than what was there when the board granted the ability to build single-family homes there. So I think in allowing us to build this development, and we could condition that we would actually technically have no access to Lawrence Street to ensure that we don't do that, and that access is only off of Rodman. I think we fit in pretty well with this neighborhood, probably better than the single-family homes do and better than the incinerator does. But we have what we have, and we have the zoning that only allows us to do certain things. Now, the letter coming from the engineering department is from one person, from the city engineer. It didn't come from the Division of Community Maintenance, it didn't come from the mayor, it didn't come from anybody other than one singular engineer's opinion, which my opinion definitely differs with. This area and this location and the building that's on there and what the people have dealt with looking at this building of Global Glass, you now have someone who just purchased a property in 16 and a commercial use did not fit there. And so he wanted to do something. What can I do with this property that's useful to this area? And we came up with this concept. Again, different styles of building, but we felt this one would fit in best, not with just one gigantic conglomerate of a building, allowing some green space, meeting all the building setbacks, interior parking, so people don't see the parking on the outside, almost like a courtyard kind of a setup. I think it's a pretty good proposal for this area and this type of zoned area. And again, it's very important, this is a special permit, not a variance by any means.
How many bedrooms are each one of these units?
I believe they are 2. Yes.
Members of the board, any other questions?
Townhouse style.
Townhouse style, first floor, second floor, living quarters, first floor, bedrooms on the second floor. Separate access from the front, so we don't have, again, when I talk about like apartment buildings, it's central hallway and doors off of the hallway. No, these are all independent entrances, exits, so that people who can't afford a single-family home, like one of the abutters potentially, can get almost that single-family feel without living in a high-rise apartment.
Yeah, there are quite a few of that type development at the north end.
They're becoming, super popular. We actually permitted one down on Globe that we're through site plan review now, almost an identical size building. It gives people a good amount of living space, and it gives them, their off-street parking. It definitely, it's a little bit of a step up from a 3 tenement, which is what I grew up in, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we have enough 3 tenements.
Anyone in favor of the petition? Sir, just give your name and where you live.
Salem Al-Zabak, 70 Fountain Street. I spoke with the owner himself, and the cost of doing anything with that building far exceed any value beyond doing this project as proposed by us. I believe I actually spoke with Glenn, the building inspector, and to get the building to code as the way it sits would have cost them almost $1 million. So this was the only viable project he had the avenue of doing.
Anyone else in favor of the petition? Anyone opposed? Okay. Just want to start in the back here and just give your name and then work your way across, please.
My name is Elford Brilliant. I live on 25 Lewiston Street in Fall River.
And you're opposed to the petition? Are you part of a letter that, what the letter that?
My name's Katarina Brilliant.
Okay, sorry for butchering it.
No, that's good.
15 Lucen Street, Iago Freitas. Just like concern, like you were saying, that it's like the houses. They're like business, the property is considered like business property. Who tell me in the future, don't change the mind, or like she said on the left, housing or whatever it is. That's my concern, you know what I mean?
I'm all in favor of putting the building down, but for housing, I go against it. And I think all my 5 neighbors over here, all the same thing.
Okay, oh, sorry.
My name is Francisco Riveros, and I live in 16 Lawrence, Lot 10. So I am the closest neighbor. And I oppose because I think it does not make sense in a block with single houses to have townhouses. That's the first thing. Second, I would like to know if that townhouses is going to be sold one by one, or if it's going to be rent. But the most concern, I think it's a block with all single houses, and now we are going to have that corner with townhouses. I think it does not make sense.
Anything else? Anyone else?
If I can respond. No, if the individual units were sold, then that would be a condominium development. I don't believe there's any intention for that to happen. These would be rentals. With regards to, again, back to the single-family block that we have, that's what happens when you take an industrial zone piece of land that doesn't allow single-family homes, and someone's able to obtain a variance to allow single-family homes to be constructed. Very similar, if you remember, to Walter Furman, when we did all those variances. Well, they wanted to put in an addition, and then everybody who lives around it that got variances to build single-family homes doesn't want the industrial building or what's allowed in that district to continue on. So again, in this area, I mean, again, the commercial uses that are allowed on this property would be a far detriment. We don't even have to come to this board to do those things. There are a number of things that we could do that would be a significant detriment to these single-family homes. This is what's allowed by special permit, so we do have the ability to do it. Again, single-family homes are not allowed. You would need a variance to do it. And then again, when you've got the incinerator, we've got the commercial use directly across the street, which hopefully that building will ultimately come down as well, and they'll do something else with that. That's been for sale for the longest time. But as you take one piece at a time and you redevelop it, you'll find that, okay, maybe that's the one across the street's going to be the next thing to go. The incinerator is not going anywhere, so that kind of stopped. I mean, that's where we start the area with the incinerator. These are all beautiful homes that they built here, all single-family homes. This would be a quality project. Again, if it was a commercial building, this is a 21,000 square foot lot. We could put up a pretty substantially sized commercial building here in a number of uses. So we think this is far less detrimental than probably 30 different allowed uses in this commercial mill district.
On the plan you show proposed stockade fencing?
That's correct.
I see that along
The entire perimeter.
It's along the entire perimeter, okay.
Well,
I'm just looking, I think this is north.
Not the street, yeah.
It does surround the entire perimeter.
Well,
Not the street.
the non-street side, so
Not
yes,
the street.
yes.
But it does go down Lawrence?
No.
No?
No, it would not run along Lawrence.
No, just.
We proposed it to keep some privacy for the single-family homes.
Where the
Yeah.
single-family house
Yeah.
perimeter is, okay.
I mean, if the board wanted to have it additionally on Lawrence, we wouldn't be opposed to it. It just kind of, whatever open space you do have, you get shortened up by the fence. But we wouldn't be opposed to it if you had some concern about that industrial traffic being an impact on that street. We can continue that fence back around to Rodman.
It's like you said, it's Jekyll and Hyde. You have one single-family neighborhood in.
And that's why we feel this fits in between, you know. It's an average of the industrial, and then it's an average of the single family somewhere in between.
I just note that there is the opposition letter, and there's also approval letters. There is limited green space and open space. I have concerns regarding how drainage will be accommodated. I know that it is predominantly covered in building and and asphalt now, but any redevelopment will need to comply with current drainage requirements, which will be difficult to deal with unless it's all underground, which is expensive. I think it is a very dense number of units. If you look at it, it's approximately 22 units per acre, because the site is roughly a half an acre. An acre is 43,560, so it's roughly 22. Would you agree, Dan? Probably 22 units per acre. It's 11 units, and it's a half an acre.
Yeah.
So it's at 20. It's compared to the surrounding neighborhood. The patios are extremely close to the property line. They are proposing screen fencing. From a planning standpoint, I'm not necessarily. We don't regulate whether this can be sold or rented. It's considered multifamily. If it's sold, it's a multifamily condo. Sometimes I think neighbors prefer it to be condos versus apartments. There are other. It's extremely dense. I don't think certain things are being provided for, like, typically whereas, it's not going to be picked up with municipal trash. So there's really almost no room for dumpster.
We have room for a dumpster area, for sure.
But again, it's just cramming even more in. I just think that I'm not necessarily from a planning standpoint opposed to the use itself. I think that the density is, it's maximizing the site to the envelope of what you can do. If you do decide to approve it, I would request that you require site plan review. That's going to happen anyway, but I want it reiterated through any decision, and also that they provide the screen fencing. That's if you decide to approve it. So those are my comments.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman? Just a couple of quick items. In this district, again, commercial mill district, we're technically allowed 100% lot coverage, which means we don't have to provide any green space. This site, as it currently exists, is 100% impervious. We'll be creating probably, I don't know straight off the top of my head, but probably 10% green space if I'm looking at the total area, all along the front, along the backs, along the sides. So we would be making a drastic improvement with regards to green space and plantings that we've shown here, and will provide greater detail in once we get to site plan review. Of course, through site plan review, we can show a location for trash receptacles. We normally will put in a screen dumpster pad either singularly or have specific barrels. We're not sure exactly what's going on with the trash situation in the city right now, so it would most likely be a private contractor. Most likely singular barrels. Dumpsters don't usually work all that well. So we do have the ability to have singular barrels for each one. They put them out, company comes in, picks up all the barrels. So we can handle items like that through site plan review. And with regards to stormwater runoff, again, we're dealing with a site that's almost entirely impervious. Drainage calculations that we can provide, again, just because of the amount of green space we're adding, we would immediately have a reduction in stormwater runoff just because we're now adding green space. However, through site plan review, Bill always knows that we will offer some type of roof drain infiltration to make it even better. So under the interior parking area, I can see a number of roof drain dry wells that would accommodate roof runoff to be infiltrated into the ground the best that we possibly could. That's all.
Members of the board, do we have a motion to grant?
I make a motion to grant on this plan, but I think it'd be
Subject
better than
to site
having
plan
a,
review.
better than having a building in there. Who knows what can happen if it don't
Yeah,
go to town.
it's a bifurcated hearing.
We do have to have a two-part hearing. Number one.
I don't know if these are stuff that's allowed by special permit, because it doesn't. Yeah, but that's a specific 86-423 requires it to be bifurcated. You can, I just don't know what you would say it would be bifurcated.
Oh, that's right, it's just strictly a special permit.
Just straight person.
You're right,
Yeah.
I understand. I remember why the other one was done, because of the other things.
You can make it. Yeah, if you want to add that in there as
Yeah.
a second
You-
vote,
you
just to be
could-
safe.
You could, if you wanted to, make it a bifurcated hearing to do the special permit, that it's no more detrimental to the existing neighborhood, and then you can then vote on it.
Okay, so the first part of the hearing would be, is the proposed plan more detrimental to the neighborhood? Do we have a motion? Or less?
Well, it could be a lot of other things that could go with that, wouldn't be,
So do you have a motion on that it is less, that it will be?
Right.
That it's no more
Yeah.
detrimental than the surrounding neighborhood?
Right. It's going to get cleaned up, I think, and put in a commercial building.
Okay, so there has a motion that it is. Do you have a second? Second. All those in favor? 1, 2. It does not pass.
Okay,
We do not make it to the next.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not responsible for the key.
I haven't.
You're sure?
And when I hang these pants up, I'll probably forget it in the morning.
All we have left is I want to bring something to your attention.
Okay.
As I was walking up here trying to think about things. While I was walking back there, I had this thought, and I just wanted to bring it to Dan's attention before we break for the evening. I think it was on that one, that's yours. I think it was on Brayton Avenue, that was a two-family. I think the vote was 3-2. So under 86-426, non-conforming single and two-family structures, Board of Appeals may, by a finding, which shall not require a supermajority required by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, allow such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change where it determines that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. So we had that finding that it wasn't, then we had a vote of 3-2. So I think under 86-426, where we had a vote of 3-2, and I said I think it was denied. I think if we read our ordinance, that you didn't need, which shall not require a supermajority required by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6. I think we, by our vote.
He's still here, so.
No, but I'm just, it's a good thing that I was walking back and forth thinking about it. But I didn't want the meeting to end without me bringing it to your attention, so so Brittany, I'm going to ask you, is that was the vote 3-2?
4-1.
Oh, it was 4-1?
Oh, it's 4-1.
No, because you had asked the question 4-1 about the finding.
Right.
And then the other one was the vote for,
The actual
vote was 3-2.
Right.
But I think under, if we determined it, and I think you brought it as a special permit number 3, Paulo Correa. Under 86-426, I think you didn't need the supermajority, and I think that it may have been granted.
Okay. Tim, you want any clarification?
Well, no, I mean, I think, I don't know. I mean, if that's members of the board, while I was back there walking around, I was thinking that we didn't need a supermajority. So on our vote of 3-2, in that the 86-426 non-conforming single and two-family structure, and it was a two-family structure that we were dealing with, that we didn't need a supermajority vote, and the vote was 4-1, that we had the finding, and then we had the vote on the special permit of 3-2. I think the special permit was granted by that vote.
By the first one.
Yeah.
Or then,
Is there anyone here in favor or opposition?
No.
No, there was no one, no, there was nobody here, right? There was nobody, I don't think there was, I didn't have any, I had nothing in my notes on it. So that was just, I didn't want to be walking them. So I think it was granted.
Right.
I think that was granted to do that.
No, he's 6 for 6 then?
No. No, I lost the biggest one.
Oh, that's right.
What? Well, not that, so let's get citizen input. Do we have any citizen input, Brittany? No, now, Brittany sent us minutes for December 13, 2018, January 17, 2019, and February 21st, 2019. We'll waive the reading of the record and approval of the minutes.
Yes.
Jim Carr, second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so those minutes have been approved. Is there any new business that I need to know about before I move for adjournment? I think that was everything on the agenda, right?
Move adjourned.
Adjournment. Second, all those in favor? Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Fall River, March 21st, 2019 is closed. Thank you.